Jimi Hendrix once told Cream's Jack Bruce, "I wish I could write something like that," talking about White Room. Little did Hendrix know that the song was actually influenced by him. Today we're having a look at White Room and its brilliance. And it's actually much more meaningful than you probably first thought.
In a white room with black curtains near the station.
So with a title like White Room, you'd think it's about sitting in a white room with your thoughts. But it's not this kind of white room. I don't know about you, but it's always given me that sort of vibe, but it's actually about something much closer to home. Pete Brown's flat and working through rough times. But the way he phrases it is just pure magic. There's such beautiful metaphor in these lyrics, and there's a reason that guitar part just sounds so incredible. But let's do a bit of background first. Pete Brown wasn't originally in Cream, of course. He wasn't a musician at all. He was a poet. In the early 60s, he was part of this British beat poet scene. Think of the kind of smoky speakeasy bars where people read poems over jazz. And Brown's stuff stood out. He wasn't into sweet little odes to pretty girls. He was loud, rhythmic, and funny. I guess somewhere between spoken word and rock poetry. He co-founded a group called the First Real Poetry Band, which mixed his poems with live jazz and blues musicians. It was messy, improvised, but it was new. And by the 60s, London's music scene was exploding, and the poetry crowd started crossing over with the blues players and the first rock and roll musicians. It was an incredible time in British music. And Brown was well known in this scene, but he wasn't really getting regular work. In fact, he's admitted to being semi-homeless just before he joined Cream. While not being a musician, Brown was a great lover of jazz and blues, and of course was well known in those circles. And he happened to be friends with people in the band Manfred Mann, and through them, Cream drummer Ginger Baker introduced him to Jack Bruce.
And everyone knew that I loved music and was a big fan. And so that was when Ginger got in touch and said, "Hey, we've formed this band called Cream. Do you want to come and help us out with some lyrics? You know, we think it might be a good idea."
Now at first, Cream's management didn't think a poet should be writing lyrics for a rock band. But once Bruce and Brown sat down together, something just clicked. Their first major collaboration was I Feel Free in 1966, and that kicked off one of the most iconic songwriting partnerships of that era. From there, Pete went from being that guy shouting verse in underground clubs to co-writing songs like Sunshine of Your Love and White Room. Some of the defining songs of the psychedelic age. And I'd love to play you long, lovely clips of these songs, but of course the YouTube copyright robots won't let me do that. But if you want to experience these videos with more of the music, you can take a look at my Patreon page. I upload special versions of all these videos over there. It's patreon.com/musicmongoose. So that brings us back to White Room. It really is about a white room. But it started out with the guitar parts, and actually with completely different lyrics. The inspiration for the music came from meeting Jimi Hendrix and his approach to playing. In fact, he came to the recording session of that in New York and said to me, "I wish I could write something like that." I said, "But it comes from you. It's a synthesis of things and not a completely original chord sequence. It's the way we place certain things in time that makes it original." Once they'd figured out the guitars, Brown got to work on the lyrics. His first draft was a pretty dreary thing called Cinderella's Last Good Night, about some doomed hippie girl, as he put it. He's also said it was about a relationship he was in at the time. Bruce wasn't much impressed with this, so they went back to the drawing board. And I always think that's the sign of a great songwriter, to be able to redo something to make sure that it does the song justice, not just to get the project finished. Brown went to his stacks of notebooks and found a sprawling 8-page poem he'd written during a pivotal point in his life. It was actually shortly after he'd been asked to join Cream. There was this kind of transitional period where I lived in this actual white room and was trying to come to terms with various things that were going on. It's a place where I stopped. I gave up all drugs and alcohol at that time in 1967 as a result of being in the white room, so it was kind of a watershed period. That song's like a kind of weird little movie. It changes perspectives all the time. Now, obviously, you can't have an 8-page poem as lyrics, unless you're, say, early Genesis or Yes. So he shaved it down to a page and really distilled that torment of a man trying to reinvent himself. And that is instantly recognizable in the first line of the song. It sets up a feeling of juxtaposition and turmoil.
In a white room with black curtains in the station.
I mean, from the off, those lyrics are just so interesting. Black and white, two different states. And then, of course, a station, which takes you somewhere, right? And then the next bit just builds up a grim environment.
Black roof country, no gold pavements, tired starlings.
I mean, he could have just wrote down, "This place is grey and dreary." But no, he paints a picture. He's a true poet.
Silver horses ran down moonbeams in your dark eye.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that's just a beautiful descriptive metaphor for tears running down your cheeks, right? Because the next bit is definitely someone leaving and it being for the best.
Your light smile on you leaving my contentment.
And this is just the intro. He's already told half a story in just 4 lines. The imagery is unbeatable. And he just keeps going as well. Every verse is telling a story with metaphors and imagery. Seriously, find some decent headphones, turn off the lights, close your eyes, and just listen to this song. It plays like a movie. It's incredible. And you've probably guessed the main story paints a picture of a couple parting ways at a station. But the subtext is an old life being left behind, the excitement and the opportunity that brings, and the joy of finding something new afterwards. And this is exactly what Brown was talking about. I think the song is really a blend of his first draft, you know, that doomed hippie, and his revised version about this watershed change. Or an alternative take that makes a lot of sense is it's not about a woman at all. It's about leaving behind substance abuse. I mean, have a look and listen back through with that idea in your mind and you can definitely see it. Because this last verse could actually be describing something like a relapse. And of course, when you write lyrics that are full of imagery and metaphor like that, hundreds of theories and interpretations appear online. It's quite fun actually just to do a Google search and see what people read into it, because there's loads out there. Some people point to the time that it was released as well, 1968, so they think it could be about the turmoil of the Vietnam War going on at the time. How he made such a deep and visual set of lyrics marry up to that catchy upbeat riff is pure skill. And there's another song that comes to mind which also manages to link devastating lyrics to a super upbeat melody, Back on the Chain Gang by Pretenders. And of course, I've made a video about that one too. Click over there to watch it next.